how we herd sheep, we drive them. Much like pushing a rope, I would imagine. But in the East, how they guide sheep is they lead them. They get in front, so the sheep follow them. But here we kind of push them. Aren't you glad that Jesus is he's the kind of shepherd who leads us instead of drives us? Now, I know every once in a while some of us need a little driving. But so the Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He's my shepherd. When you read most of the things and you hear most of the things, people will say this: sheep are dumb. I prefer to think that we're just really dependent, but I'm okay with being called dumb. But sheep are like, apparently if you put a sheep in the middle of a pasture, and he's like, grass, and he eats grass. Oh, there's a little grass. But he can't see over the knoll, and he's kind of down in a little valley. Well, he will eat all the grass that he sees in front of him. And then he'll go, no grass. I'll eat the roots. So he eats the roots. And then, because he doesn't look over the hill, he doesn't move from where he's at. He's like, this is the entirety of my surroundings. Only what I see is all that's there. And so he will eat to the point where there's nothing left for him to eat, and he'll starve. Same with water. He won't go look for water. He may wander off, but he's not wandering off looking for something. He's just wandering off because he's wandering off. So the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. As long as I stay in proximity with the shepherd, he's going to make sure that my needs are met, and he's going to make sure that I'm taken care of. So this good shepherd, he makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. Well, sheep won't drink from flowing water, which is a good thing because they might fall in. If they fall in, they're not great swimmers, okay? So they could literally get drowned. So what does a good shepherd do? A good shepherd he takes them beside still water so they can reach down and they can get the water and they can drink the water. But notice he also says that a good shepherd, he makes me lie down in green pastures. How many of y'all were ever forced to take a nap as a child? How many of you now realize, oh man, I should have taken more advantage of being forced to take a nap? So Sally and I had an evangelist friend who said, if you don't take a nap on Sunday afternoon, you may not be saved. But I remember all the times I was forced to take a nap. Some of us have had some setbacks. And one of the messages that I heard, the guy said, when you have a setback, you should really stop and look and go, was this Jesus making me lie down in green pastures because he knew you need a rest? My friend Jack Keller has had a forced resting in, by the cool streams here because of some health issues. Sometimes we have things happen. Yes, Jill, I'm talking to you. Sometimes we have things happen in our life where it's like, oh man, this was such a setback. But in actuality, it was our good shepherd saying, I need you to take a break for a minute because of what I have coming up next. You don't know this, but tomorrow we're taking a 5-mile hike. And so I need you to rest today. Well, if we worry, we don't really get the benefit of the rest. But if we can rest in the shepherd, okay, he's got me by still waters. He's making me lie down in green pastures. Then I can rest and be ready for what comes next. So, the next thing, he restores my soul. He guides me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Now again, remember, he guides me because he gets out in front of me and he says, follow me. Now, I've always loved the fact about a boss who will say, I'll never make you do something I have not done or I'm not willing to do. But we do know that at some point as a boss, you can't do everything. You need to say, okay, go do that. But you can speak from experience. Usually when you go to work for a company, they don't just put you in management. They let you run through so that you understand the billing process and you understand the building process and you understand all this stuff. So I've been there before. I can show you how to go. So he's saying that he guides me in the paths of righteousness. So he's leading. Now, this is where Jill Briscoe had this great analogy. She said that they were in Jerusalem, and it's almost now kind of a touristy thing. Now, obviously, there are still shepherds, and sheep are still a valuable asset and all this other stuff. But they kind of run them through town now just to really kind of just let the tourists see, oh, look, it's a sheep herd. We actually sang one time at was a cattle drive through the middle of a town. Obviously, it was not a big town; it was a little town. But they did that just kind of for the excitement, for all the fans, all the locals. Well, she said she's standing there, and all of a sudden you hear this bah bah, and then look up, and here comes the shepherd, and the shepherd is, he's dressed nice for a shepherd, but he's very jovial, and he's just kind of coming along, and he's talking to the sheep, and the sheep are following him, and they're all just kind of staying in that little line, and they all look healthy, and they all look clean, and they follow him right in, and they go right into the little sheep area. Said not many minutes after that, you hear this other from the other side of town, bah bah bah, and you look, and there's this shepherd, and he's like just yelling and just nasty, and and the sheep are like scraggled, and they keep running off, and one of them like the ears hanging off and all this other stuff. She said, you know what was amazing is you could tell a lot about the shepherd by the condition of the sheep. Notice what it says right here. He restores my soul. He guides me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. You and I we're part of the example of what a good shepherd we have. When people look and go, man, who's your shepherd? I want to be in the herd that you're in because your shepherd must take pretty good care of me because of the way you live and because of the way you respond to things you just carry this. You just look like a good sheep. And no sheep is good by themselves, so you must have a really good shepherd. So I think that was such a cool perspective that we are there. Now, we know that in Jesus, as in all those times that he's referring to himself as the good shepherd, he says what? The sheep hear my voice and they follow me. And I've always thought, that's because when Jesus says, hey, Mike, I know it's Jesus going, hey, Mike. But then I thought about, if you got, because I always say the 99 and the 1. So let's say you got 100 sheep. I got to call 100 names to get all of them to follow me? Or am I saying one name? See, I think I've had it wrong all this time. The sheep doesn't call my name. The shepherd calls his name. Hey. And then I actually typed in, how does a shepherd call his sheep? And it was cool because there was this person who goes, I bet I can get your sheep to follow me. And he's like handed him the staff, and he goes, yeah, have a nice time trying. And so the girl's out there, come here, sheep, and all this other stuff. And the sheep were like not even paying attention. But all he had to do is pick it up, and he made this sound, whatever, and all the sheep were like, ooh, okay. They recognized the sound of the shepherd. It's not it's not their name that was called. It's the sound of the shepherd. Do you recognize the sound of the shepherd? Do you recognize when it's Jesus saying, hey, I got this. Hey, it's going to be okay. Hey, I'm with you. I'm over you. I've got you. So she said that, and I thought it was good. Jesus restores our soul, guides us in paths of righteousness for his name's sake, his reputation. Let's go back for a minute about some of the tragedy that we see in the church where you get two factions of a church beating on each other. What does that say about our shepherd? See, I'm thinking, I want to give a good reputation to my shepherd. I want to be positive in the influence and what I'm going to say. So, moving right along, because I got to get through my intro so I can talk about the scripture. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemy. Okay, and if you think about it from the perspective of a shepherd, to me, that means wherever the shepherd is, it's safe. You're going to eat in front. It doesn't matter who you're in front of, because I'm with you. They can't get to you. Oh, but I'm going to have to walk by that person who really hates me. Don't worry about it. You're with me. I'm right here. We can walk right through something horrible. We can walk right through the enemy's camp because you're with me. I love that. My dad can beat up your dad. Well, my God can beat up everybody's God all at once with his hands tied behind his back and sitting down. because he's the God of all creation. So if I'm with the shepherd and my shepherd can beat and defeat anything all at the same time, well, that's the reason I can sit in front of my enemies and I can eat. I was like, aren't you worried they're going to come at you? It's like, how are they going to get to me? I am in the hand of the Father. I'm in the hand. I'm in Jesus, and Jesus is in the Father. And it's like I can see it, but it doesn't scare me. It doesn't bother me. So as long as I'm in the shepherd, I'm safe. And another way that I want to like to look at this is the whole you prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies is this. It's Pharaoh saying, I'm going to make sure that the children of Israel never leave here. And how I'm going to do that is I'm going to kill a generation of their males so they'll lose their leadership so they will stay here. So me, Pharaoh, I am going to stop the children of Israel by killing all the potential leaders. And God goes, man, that is a great idea, Pharaoh. That's awesome. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to let your daughter rescue the guy who's going to lead him out of. And then I'm going to use your wallet to pay his mom to nurse him to where he grows up to be a strong young man. And then I'm going to take your influence and your position to train this dude to lead my people. Man, Pharaoh, thank you for that idea. God takes the plan of the enemy and he flip-flops it around. See, he prepares a meal for me in the presence of my enemy. And he's taken food off the enemy's table to feed me. He's taken resources away from the enemy to bless me with. Because he's the good shepherd. He's the one who can do that. To go on. You have anointed my head with oil. Now, I love this one, and this was, again, the anointing of the oil. Okay, so what would happen is sheep. What do sheep do if they get bugs in their eyes or something like that? I mean, cows and horses, they can maybe flip their tail or whatever. But a sheep is pretty much, I got bugs in my eyes. What am I going to do? And the bugs aren't just annoying, but they can actually be dangerous. So what would the shepherd do? The shepherd would put this anointing oil over him because the oil kept the bugs away. Sally does the same thing to her hummingbird feeder because is it wasps or ants we're having problems with? Both. So Sally's figured out how to put this stuff on there that it keeps the wasps and the ants off of it so the hummingbirds. But it's pretty cool. And if you happen to have an abrasion or a cut or anything, this also has a healing property. Which says what? Not only does God help us with the annoyances of life, but he brings healing in those places that are wounds, that are brokenness. So this is pretty cool. It's not just about, oh man, he anointed my head. It actually serves a purpose. And then this one, I love this one. My cup overflows. In some Eastern cultures, if you were to go into their home and they would give you a cup and they would begin to pour, and you're holding the cup out and they begin to pour, guess what happens? They pour until it runs out, overflows. And what usually happens is in our culture, it's like, oh, and they're like, no. This is a symbol. This only happens one time. We only waste the one time. But this is a symbol of saying our hospitality isn't just enough, it's more than enough. We're giving you everything we have to overflow. In those cultures, if they accept you into their house, you are under their protection. If the neighbors come and say, hey, we want those people, you can't because now they're guests in my home and they're under my protection. So this is a beautiful symbol that we have a God who's not just the enough God, but he's the more than enough God, that it overflows. And it's like some of us, believe it or not, some of us, like me, that's a waste. God doesn't see it as a waste. He really doesn't see it as a waste. He sees it as a way to bless us. So surely goodness and loving kindness will follow me all the days of my life. He leaves a wake of destruction in his path. Have you ever heard that about somebody? He leaves a wake of destruction. She everywhere she goes, she leaves a trail of wounded hearts. When you and I leave a place, what's said about us? Since we are representatives of the shepherd, surely goodness and loving kindness, surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life. I don't think that just means that I get to enjoy mercy, and goodness. I think that's the trail that I leave behind me is goodness and mercy.